Nice. All right, so welcome to Empower. I am so excited that everyone is here. We have another 10 ladies joining us in the individual modules as well, and more people sign up as the year goes on, but you will be split into your nests of 4, and that's probably the people that you're going to get to know the most. Okay, so I'm going to tell you as the day goes on a bit more about YogaBellies. Now, some will know more than others. Some of you will already be existing yoga teachers or existing YogaBellies teachers, expanding your studies. So today we're going to focus on, getting to understand what YogaBellies is all about, who we are, the origins of YogaBellies, and you're going to learn about the path of YogaBellies going through the different female life stages, as well as about the YogaBellies Sadhana, which is the method that we use, a transformative method that we use working with women, and the different classes that we offer. All right. We're also going to look at you personally. So this first module is very much about you, what you want from Empower, so the goals that you have, but more importantly, your Sankalpa, which we'll look at towards the end of today's session. And that's really looking at, it's not a goal. So we'll look at the goals first, and then your Sankalpa is your intention. Why do you want that goal? Why do you want to be able to work for yourself? Why do you want to be fitter? Why do you need more energy? All of these things, okay? Hold on, some more people trying to come in. I've just switched this waiting room off. There we go. Welcome, everybody. Okay. You'll find out why YogaBellies was created and what motivated me to start the journey and to create Empower. Okay, so as I said, some of you will know me better than others, but I will just tell you a bit about myself. I'm Cheryl MacDonald. I was born in Glasgow, which I'm sure you can tell from my accent, and I am currently living in Singapore with my husband Mike and my son Keelan, who might be a bit noisy, so bear with me. He's still off in the school holidays. I've been teaching yoga I've been training yoga teachers for 15 years, and I've been practicing since I was about 18. So that's longer than I'd like to admit. I'm also a naturopath. I'm training to become a psychologist. I'm doing a master's in psychology and integrative counselling, and I'm also a women's health coach as well. And I started YogaBellies when I was thinking about becoming a mum. This needs updated. It was 12 years ago, yeah. And I wanted to create a community of women supporting women. So it was what I was looking for at that time in my life. I really needed what I was offering. So I personally got so much from building that community, because I was in that stage as well. I was pregnant, I had a new baby, and everything that I created in the YogaBellies classes is what I needed myself. So I know that it works because I needed it and I created it and I did it to myself first before I worked with anyone else. And that's what we're going to do as well, guys. Okay. So everything that I'm going to teach you, you're going to practice and embody yourself, because you cannot work with or help or heal women with yoga until you're doing it yourself. And that was a big thing that I did early on in my yoga career. I talked a lot about yoga. I genuinely believed that I had discovered yoga and that I knew about all of the benefits. I was fit, I was lean, I had energy, I felt quite positive, but I did not know that there was so much more to yoga. Okay. And I'm not just talking about breathing practices. I'm not just talking about meditations. Obviously, these are huge parts of yoga, but you're going to find out today why YogaBellies is so different from just a standard yoga class. Okay. And that's because we use the Sadhana. All right. Now, I don't want to go ahead of myself. I've got a habit of doing this. I'll go ahead of myself and talk about something that's on a slide later. But basically, the reason I came into this was because I loved working with women. All right. Now, teaching yoga to women is completely different from teaching yoga to men. And you can make a huge difference in the lives of women. And a huge part of that is what we call in the Sadhana circle or community. So again, I won't jump ahead of myself there, but YogaBellies is basically it's a whole life approach to wellness. Okay. So it's mindfulness, it's shadow work, it's self-improvement and nutrition as well. So YogaBellies itself has worked with over 100,000 women in the UK alone in the past 10 years. and they've felt the benefits. They've come back so many. In fact, most of our teachers have come to YogaBellies classes before, so I'll find out later which of you have, but most of our teachers have, and they've felt the differences themselves. All right, so we are not going to just be yoga teachers, not that there's anything wrong with that, but what I mean by that is that we are not just going to teach yoga on the mat. All right. As I said, I thought I understood what yoga was, you know, so I'd worked with women, whether it was in the classes that I was teaching or whether it was with the yoga teachers, and they would get the practice, so they'd instantly start feeling fitter. They might lose weight. They may feel, you know, more positive. They'd feel great in the class, but then they would leave the class and they would lose those benefits, and they wouldn't have them again until they come back to the class the next week. And I started to realize, you know, that you can't, that really this can't be happening. This is not beneficial. We can actually take that practice off the mat. Yoga is actually a lifestyle choice. Okay, now that doesn't mean that you have to be perfect all the time, or you have to live in a cave in the mountains and drink only Mountain Dew. You know, that's not the case. What it does mean is that you can choose to make your whole life better with yoga, and that's what I'm going to show you how to do. All right, now that's why I created the Sadhana, to help women physically, mentally, emotionally, all of these things every single day. Now, I will obviously use Sanskrit. I'll talk about a lot of don't be overwhelmed by that if you've never come across it before, but I will be talking about a lot of traditional yoga practices, but I'm going to show you how we make them very simple and applicable, but just as effective for the women in our classes. Because as you know, and you may have felt yourself, yoga can be very intimidating for people when we have, you know, yoga teachers up the front in the wee tiny yoga pants doing handstands and making us all feel inferior, or you've got the long time yogis up the front with their fancy mats and, you know, they're making you feel like an idiot. It can be very intimidating. So that is what YogaBellies is not about. All right. Now, when I started YogaBellies as well, a lot of things had happened to me. My best friend had died the day my son was born. So I won't get into that too much, but you can imagine it was very, 1 minute I've got a best friend and no baby. Next minute I have a baby and no best friend. Pretty traumatic time. And I really threw myself into YogaBellies at that time. And I mean, Sharon will attest to this, who saw it firsthand. I was working 24/7. I was trying not to cope with problems that I had. That had to be dealt with other issues. And, you know, I was not actually living my yoga. I thought I was, because I was getting on that mat every day, but I was not living my yoga. I was telling other women, this is what you should do, and this, but I was not actually doing it myself. Okay. Now I'm in a very strong position to help all the women I work with, because I am actually living my yoga and everything that I'm doing. It's not that I didn't think I thought I was genuine at the time, but I didn't realize there was so much more to it, so much more that I could learn. All right. So what I want to do today is to begin you on that journey to tuning in to your feminine intuition. All right. Tuning into all of your senses and becoming mindful of what's going on inside you and the world around you. All right. So we're going to look at all the other tools. We're going to look at the Sadhana on the mat, how we take that out into real life. We're going to look at nutrition, self-care, mindset, and all sorts of other weird and wonderful stuff that I have learned over the years, because Empower is really the accumulation of everything I've learned about yoga over the past 25 years. And that is a lot of spiritual stuff going on there. All right. I'll tell you a bit more about that in a minute. Now, sometimes when I explain to people what YogaBellies is, they'll say to me, oh, right, that doesn't really sound like yoga. Because I'm telling them about the changes and how transformational it is for women, and how much people can get from it, and how it is a lifestyle, how it can be a career, how you're helping other women, that community element, you know, learning to deal with emotions, all of the different things that it does that people don't expect from a yoga class, because most people think it is just yoga on the mat and that's it. So, you know, I would say, oh, is it, you know, is it not yoga? But then I realized that actually YogaBellies is yoga. It's just that most people don't understand how much yoga can actually be. So hopefully by the end of today, or definitely by the end of Empower, you will understand how much more it can be. All right. Now, guys, if you have any questions at all, please just pop them in the wee question box. Everybody okay so far? Just going to be talking at you all day, guys. All right, so a bit more about me and why you want to listen to me. So some of the stuff that I've trained in: yoga, meditation, psychology, Ayurveda, Tao Tantra, women's health, nutrition, hypnosis, womb work, parent craft, holistic healing, massage, optimal fetal positioning, and about 9 million other things that I have not got space to put on here. All right, I've been doing it for a long time. We've trained hundreds of YogaBellies teachers and BirthRocks mentors across the world. And as I said, we've taught an awful lot of women in the UK over the past 10 years and now globally as well. I've written 10 books on yoga and women's health, although admittedly 4 of them are about bunnies that do yoga. So don't know how educational they are for yourselves, but maybe your kids. And I've won lots of awards for women in business, and you can see some of them up there. All right. And these are just some of the publications that you may have come across: YogaBellies, Dragon's Den, This Morning, Huffington Post, working with celebrities, all this kind of thing, because apparently this stuff is important to show your credibility. So I'm just going to stick it on a wee slide for you there, okay? Here is your senior YogaBellies team. So, oh, I'm not on it. I'm in it, by the way. This is my husband, Mike, who is a cardiologist and weight loss specialist, and he is fantastic. He works with a lot of perimenopausal and menopausal women, talking about weight gain. So one of the lectures you've got is actually with Mike, and he's going to be talking a lot about that, with the lovely Hilary, who is a women's sexuality coach. She's absolutely incredible. Joanne Shaw, who is a physiotherapist here in Singapore, who works with women and is also an Empower trained teacher. She trained last year. She's awesome. The senior yoga teachers that you guys are going to be working with this year are Tara from Belfast and Ellie from Dubai. Kim is in Singapore and Siobhan is in Scotland. So they're not going to be working with us this year to begin with anyway. All right. Okay. So what is YogaBellies all about? Our mission is to learn, support, and grow. Now, whether that's the ladies in our class or whether that is yourself in this training. So we want to embody YogaBellies life skills. We are going to start with you. So today it's all about you. Be completely selfish. Forget all of those women you want to teach or anyone else you want to help, or are going to help you first. All right. We're going to embrace the sadhana. We're going to experience all the benefits before we teach it to other women. It's to empower you to live your best life by tuning in to your truly feminine nature. Now, that does not mean running about in a pink dress with lipstick and feathers or something. I mean, feel free. I like that look myself. But what it means is being true to the fact that you're a woman. And obviously in the next module, module 2, we'll look a lot at the seasonal nature of female life, whether that's throughout the menstrual cycle, the lunar cycle, or the life cycle. But we are cyclical beings, and it's about honoring that instead of fighting it. Not going to go down that road just now because I could talk about it all day. I will save that for the next one. And to create and foster a community of women. It is not just the kind of class that you come into, say hello, pull your shapes and go home. That's not what we're all about. Most of it is about meeting other women at the same life stage. And any of you that, for example, have had kids or are currently pregnant, you'll know, how important it is to have your mummy friends at that time, to have other people to moan to about the aches and pains and the fact that you haven't slept in 6 months and all of these things. Because do you know what? Frankly, your single friends don't want to hear it. And your friends or kids have grown up. They don't want to hear it either because they're done. They've done their bit. So in a very, coarse manner, this is a really important part of what we do. It's not just about shapes in a mat. So let me explain in a synopsis what YogaBellies is all about, what the foundations are all about. Stating the obvious here, but women are biologically and emotionally distinct from men. Now that sounds super, super obvious, all right? But if you think about everyday life and how we're treated by society, we are actually treated the same. Now that doesn't mean that I am not a feminist or I do not believe in equality. I absolutely do. But the facts are that we have hormones and biological functions and body parts that men do not, and vice versa. It's just a fact. There's nothing we can do about that, and that's fine, all right? Yoga was created about, physical hatha yoga was created for men hundreds of years ago. It was actually created for teenage boys to burn off excess sexual energy. And that's that kind of yoga that you would see would be a kind of Ashtanga style yoga, very vigorous, very rajastic, dynamic, powerful, not created or useful for women at all, right? Now, the purpose and the reason why YogaBellies exists is to allow women to enjoy the unique benefits of yoga that are unique to them, okay, in a way that is actually created for them. Now, when I'm saying about not working against their natural instincts and capabilities, I'll give you my example. When I was about 21, I had a 6-day-a-week Ashtanga yoga practice. Does anyone practice Ashtanga? No. Ashtanga is great fun, right? So nothing against Ashtanga. I was a complete fanatic. 6 days a week, 90 minutes minimum a day, really hardcore arm balances, handstands, all of this stuff. I had the best abs you've ever seen in your life. I was a machine, but my periods completely stopped and I did not feel good. Instead of having more energy, feeling better because I was so buff, I actually felt exhausted all the time. You know, and in Ashtanga, for example, it's not, having a rest is not something you do. It's not something that's encouraged. It's seen, you know, as a weakness because it was created for men. However, again, don't want to get into this too much, but at various points of the month, we have fluctuating energy levels and we need to learn to embrace that so that we can feel in our optimal health at each point in the month, okay? So I'm sure, top line, when we're ovulating, broadly, we have more energy. When we're menstruating, we are absolutely stuffed, all right? I don't want to get out of my bed for 3 days. And you know what? That's absolutely fine because that is when I need to rest and restore and rebuild that energy for the rest of the month so that I can make the most of the times in the month when my energy is high, all right? So I'm not going to get down that road, as I've said, but just to give you an idea of why I'm talking about yoga that is beneficial and created specifically for women. Now, not only was it created for men, probably 100 years ago, women were not allowed in yoga classes. That's how even the ancient Indian yogis knew that this practice was not for women. But obviously, the usual thing happens. We bring it to the West, it becomes completely bastardized, and everyone just takes out of it what they want. And they completely forget the fact that this was not made for women, okay? Yoga is so much more than a physical practice, all right? So you may or may not know there are 8 limbs of yoga. We will talk about that at a later date. But getting on the yoga mat, the actual physical practice that everyone sees and thinks of as yoga is the 4th limb, all right? So we don't even do that until we've looked at ourselves, and that's the way we're going to work it here as well. So that's why today and tomorrow, no physical yoga with me. We're going to work on you first, okay? We're going to work on the mind and the mindset. We support women to live their best lives. We make it accessible to everyone. It's inclusive. Nobody is going to come into a YogaBellies class and think, oh God, I can't do this, or I shouldn't be here, or I'm not as skinny as her, or, oh, they're too cool. No one's going to think that. And not because we're not cool, but because we are welcoming, and we don't want people to feel that. I do not encourage my teachers to stand up the front and show off, you know, their massive, huge, fantastically fancy back bends and arm balances to a beginner's class. That is completely pointless. Why would you do that? That's just going to make everyone feel bad and as if they're never going to get there. We are not about arm balances. Do enjoy them myself, but I do not teach them to women, and I'll talk more about that when we get into asana. But being part of YogaBellies means that you're connected with the most amazing global network of incredible women. And I say this every time, but everyone that joins YogaBellies is exceptional in some way or another. And I often joke and say that we could, well, I'm not joking, we could actually take over the world with all the skills that we have in YogaBellies, okay? We've got everyone. We've got lawyers, hairdressers, models, doctors, housewives, mums, grands, we've got everyone, all right? So between all of that knowledge, we could pretty much take over the world, which excites me greatly. Hold on a wee second. All right, any questions so far? I know I'm just getting a bit enthusiastic and firing all of this at you guys. So I'll just briefly tell you what the name means. And some people think it's very funny. They say YogaBellies, ah, ha, ha, and kind of rub their belly. But the reason it's called that is the belly refers to the womb. all right? And the womb is obviously known as the hara, and that is the center of female consciousness, all right? It is where we keep our feminine intuition. It's our gut knowledge, our feminine instincts. So we're going to talk a bit more about that, but that is basically why it's called Yoga Bellies, okay? So some people think, oh, it's just pregnancy yoga, but it's not, and I will explain why we have the other variations and the other names and stuff as well.